The troubadour sang of love. This song was well known to Eleanor. It was composed by Guillaume of Aquitaines, the queen's grandfather. She listened absently, lost in her own thoughts. When the song ended, Eleanor rose from her high chair and gestured for the singer to leave. On this January day in the mid-12th century, she decided she no longer wanted to be Queen of France. Every unhappy marriage has its own story of decline. The union envisioned by King Louis VI and the Duke of Aquitaine was doomed from the start. To unite the daughter of the South, a bearer of Provençal culture, with a devout, ascetic northerner. But Eleanor was not just a girl from a noble family. She was fantastically wealthy. Eleanor was one of the two surviving children of the Duke of Aquitaine and his main heir. The King of France simply could not miss such an opportunity to add another substantial territory to his realm. The arrangement for the marriage had been maintained since the year 1132, but 5 years later the ruler of Aquitaine died unexpectedly. King Louis VI also sensed his own impending death. Fearing that this important political alliance might fall through, he rushed things along. In Bordeaux, at the Church of St. Andrew, Eleanor of Aquitaine was wed to the heir to the French throne, Louis. In fact, Louis had been groomed for a religious career, spending many years as a boy in a monastery. The throne was supposed to be inherited by the king's eldest son, Philip, but then the prince fell from his horse and died. It was then that Louis was hastily recalled from the holy sanctuary to prepare for his reign. This new role proved to be quite a challenge for the former monk. The king was right. Death took him that same year. The teenage newlyweds, having just gotten to know each other, quickly left the Duchy of Aquitaine and headed to Paris. In December, their coronation took place in Reims. Eleanor did not take to her new surroundings. Paris seemed dull and impoverished compared to her homeland. The dresses worn by the young queen sparked whispers, so bold, so different. Even the language varied. They all spoke French, but compared to the lovely southern lilt, the speech of the Parisians reminded Eleanor of cawing crows. But the hardest part was Louis. The sensual young wife found no response in Louis. He strictly observed all fasts, refraining from marital duties on Fridays and Wednesdays. Eleanor began to grow irritated. Discovering that the abbot Suger had a strong influence on her husband did not please her either. The queen managed to temporarily banish Suger, but Louis later brought him back to court. Relations with her mother-in-law, Adele of Savoy, were far from ideal. Just as devout as her son, the queen constantly reminded her daughter-in-law of her duties to the church. Fortunately, Adele married Sire de Montmorency, which meant she made fewer appearances at court. Life with the king felt like a seesaw. Sometimes Eleanor managed to sway her husband to her side, while at other times he became stubborn and refused to share her perspective. Their influence over one another ebbed and flowed. When Eleanor's own sister became involved with a married man, Eleanor passionately defended the wayward Petronilla. Louis VII initially wanted to stay out of it, but eventually gave in to his wife's pleas and offered his support as well. However, Petronilla and her lover were excommunicated, putting the pious king in a ridiculous position. How could he, a champion of faith, support sinners? Tormented by guilt, Louis vowed to embark on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. In the year 1145, Eleanor had a daughter named Mary. This was a momentous event for France, as the couple had lived in a childless marriage for 8 years. 2 years later, Louis decided to fulfill his vow. He set off on a crusade with his wife. It was during this campaign that everything fell apart. The king's successes were modest, while the losses were far greater than anticipated. Louis grew anxious and became even more withdrawn than before. Most importantly, the couple stopped understanding each other. When Eleanor's uncle, Raymond, joined them on the campaign, rumors began to circulate, accusing the queen of having an affair with him. Apparently, Louis believed these rumors. Deeply hurt by his distrust and stung by her husband's growing coldness, Eleanor decided to return home. The king and queen sailed from Acre on separate ships. During the journey, Eleanor fell ill, forcing them to stop halfway, near Rome. The Pope welcomed the French couple and, upon learning of their disagreements, tried to mediate. The few weeks that Eleanor and Louis spent under the same roof resulted in the birth of their daughter Alice. Yet even the birth of their second daughter could not mend their marriage. In France, both spouses expressed the same desire: divorce. They attempted to spend one last Christmas together, but afterward, Eleanor retreated to Aquitaine. Soon, she was a free woman once more.